These are a little bit blurry, but you can see this was somebody who actually took our program director class and then sent us before and afters of what she had done. So the top pictures are the befores. The one on the left is just like chairs and a wheelchair and some random junk. She turned it into a laundry station. And we see a lot of these workbenches. They are just not that effective. They're just not that effective. There's not a lot to do there. She turned it into a garden station where people can, arrange flowers. And then even I would add like having an indoor garden there would be great. So you have like a hydroponic garden would be a great addition to that space. This is one of my first clients ever. I had a skilled nursing facility and I needed to turn this massive um, nursing station into something that looked acceptable, that was felt like comfortable. And so I turned it into a five and dime counter. They also had a situation where a lot of residents were like being lined up, in their chairs and their wheelchairs right outside the nursing station. And it just looked terrible and no one was getting interaction. So I set up a music player there with two comfy chairs so people could sit there if they wanted, but it wasn't like everybody gets to line up here and that's where they sit. Bookshelf doors. We love a bookshelf door. Sometimes we run into situations with a fire marshal or, surveyor or whatever because they don't get it. They don't get what we're trying to do. They get hung up on the concept of, but the residents have to be able to see the egress. They have to be able to get to the exit. And it's like, sure. But in memory care, where we don't actually want anybody to egress without staff. So the bookshelf door is a great way to disguise a door in, I believe, a very acceptable and, kind manner. We hear a lot of, but memory care should be non-secure. It should be unlocked. Yo, that sounds great. It's a bad idea. I've worked in a non-secure dementia care community, and I spent a lot of time, wasted a lot of time bringing residents back from outside or from assisted living. It was dumb. It's dumb. It doesn't make sense. Doors are locked to protect, the safety of the people who are living there. This is one of the big reasons they're in memory care. It is what it is. Anybody who's like, we need an unlocked unit probably has never worked in an unlocked unit as I have. We had a gentleman, we actually had to transition into another building because he walked a mile down the road. I know because I was following him and had to get him sent to the hospital to do a psych admit because it was a Friday and we couldn't keep him safe over the weekend because he kept leaving. So long story short, we're big fans of the bookshelf doors. And as you'll notice, these look super real and are not painted, but are rather just actual door decals. Love, love, love baby dolls. I showed you, my example. I've got this guy's been with me for like a decade. They look real enough, they feel real enough without being creepy and without being an insane price point. These are again like 25, $30 on Amazon, the Behringer, JC Toys baby dolls. And again, we always want to hold the baby as if it's real and say, what do you think about this? Not look at this baby, but what do you think about this? And if they say, oh, a baby doll, you say, oh, yeah, I bought it. I bought it for my son. I was going to see what he thought about it. I was going to see if he liked it. Right. We have a way out of that. We're not painting ourselves into a corner, going back to this concept of doing what's true for the person without looking like we are nuts. Remember the key points with baby dolls and stuffed animals. They got to look real without being creepy. Ask, what do you think about this? And we really want at least two per life station. Here's, there's a way to keep it simple. I arrived at this building. I went through their closets. I found two usable baby dolls. There was an unused but kind of tarnished bassinet. Went to Target, bought some wall art, bought a couple blankets, put it together. Bing, bang, boom. In like an hour, I have a usable baby station. If you have a whole room, by all means, let's use a room. For flower arranging, we really want to do it in a way that invites people. Like, this is really, really pretty. I would leave some out so that residents actually have something to do. more babies or more pet stations, a close up of my favorite photo. Here's what not to do. Too realistic. Um, we don't want Cabbage Patch dolls, right? So there's a line. We don't want Cabbage Patch dolls, and we don't want this super realism because I've had in a time a couple residents who are freaked out by babies whose eyes never open. Okay. Also, I think it's sort of weird if they're like crying. My only real complaint with this doll is it does have a slightly open mouth because people will try to feed the baby, but that's just an opportunity to say, "Oh, it's time for me to put down the baby for a nap." So I'm gonna, you take the baby from the resident at lunch or dinner or whatever it is. Not realistic looking enough. Yeah, we've seen this, and these end up right in the trash because these are for kids. This is a life station that is really pretty to look at, but there's nothing to do here, right? Like this is something that I would say is like, ooh, this is like a nice thing for a tour, right? But families who are looking at this don't realize there's no point to this station at all. Like no one's going to do anything. Same thing here. Oh boy, do I hate these sensory boards. I really don't like them. I hate when people put them on the walls. I hate when people leave them out on tables or hand them to residents. These are for toddlers. They are not for people living with dementia. Now, if you have someone who's very progressed and they need to pick at something or they're picking at their skin or something like that, giving them a fidget blanket or something is appropriate. But just like leaving these out, these were like attached to the table. There's nothing to do there. Love the pets, but they belong on the table and not on the floor. Although it makes sense for pets to be on the floor, we don't want to do that for safety reasons. We don't want our residents like leaning down to pick things up. I did this and I don't like it now. I did this like 10 years ago at that skilled nursing facility I'd mentioned. And, it looked good, but it's stupid. There's nothing to do there. I don't like that I did this. You live and you learn. Okay. Got to convert the physical space. Oh, you see a lot of this in senior living. You see a lot of this. What's the plan, right? There's no usable space here. Turning this maybe into a circle at least so people can do things together and everyone's not just facing a TV. Because let's face it, like nothing's going to be going on here with this setup. A note about couches. We all know we want things for residents to be able to use to get up. Now, you may think, okay, a 3-seater couch, nobody's going to sit in the middle, so it's still okay. Au contraire. In memory care, a lot of times people, in later stages are not in a place where they're making that social distinction that it's like uncomfortable socially to sit between people, right? And so I've had situations where you have a resident here, fine, they each have an armrest, and then somebody sits right in the middle, and then that person can't get up. So I prefer 2-seater couches if need be in dementia care. Oh boy, like I said, I hate a sensory wall. Not a fan. Don't do it. Got to take it down. Not good. All right.